Good evening, everyone. 3 weeks ago, the White House trade advisor was in Rochester singing the praises of Kodak. Tonight, he's calling the company's top executives stupid.
Kodak, I mean,
it's a classic.
It's hard to be that. You can't fix stupid, Joe. You just can't.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
You can't even anticipate that
take
degree of stupidity.
This was Peter Navarro, who was an advisor to the Donald Trump administration. Navarro was noticeably critical of Kodak, but rewind just 20 days and he was singing the company's praises.
This deal with Kodak is historic. It's going to make a big difference for the American people because it's going to bring all our essential medicines home.
Kodak stock soared on the announcement for a letter of intent for $765 million from the US government.
Ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at a sensation. The stock price of Kodak, $53 a share as of right now. A few days ago, literally a few days ago, it was $2 a share. Never seen anything like it.
But soon, the SEC was investigating the loan, and it seems all but dead in late 2020. So what was the Kodak scandal, and what does Kodak do today? Welcome to The Market is Open. Before we start, we want to thank Skillshare who sponsored this video. Skillshare is an online learning community that has thousands of topics where you can learn many skills like business analytics, which teaches you how to improve your presentation skills for visualizing data. Or you may want to learn about finance so that you can build better stock valuation models. Skillshare has many topics and it can either boost your learning or help you enjoy creative pursuits like photography or video editing. The first 1,000 people to click the link in the description will get a free trial to the Skillshare Premium membership. There is so much knowledge to gain by signing up, so thank you for supporting Skillshare and us. George Eastman was born in New York in 1854. In the 1880s, he invented roll film. Previously, photographers had to carry around heavy cameras because they used cumbersome glass plates that obviously didn't roll up like film. In 1888, he moved beyond film by releasing the first Kodak camera, which emphasized simplicity. The slogan was, "You press the button and we do the rest." In 1900, Kodak once again emphasized simplicity with a $1 camera that even a child could use. By 1927, Kodak had a virtual monopoly on photography. By 1943, sales reached 270 million. By 1963, 1 billion. And by 1981, nearly 10 billion. Kodak was also one of the 10 most valuable companies in the United States at this time. However, its growth actually started to slow in the 1980s as it was facing competition from other products like video cameras. For example, Sony announced its Handycam in the mid-1980s and pointed out this.
Light and easy as a still camera, yet can give you 2 hours of incredible sight and sound. So why just take snapshots when you can take moving snapshots? Take home a Sony Handycam and turn any TV set into a photo album.
While there are a lot of reasons why Kodak's results deteriorated further, but perhaps its narrow focus on photography was a key reason for its decline that is often not mentioned. Because in 2000, it actually had the second largest market share position for digital cameras at 15%, but it was losing $60 a camera. Its narrow focus also meant it would miss out on revolutionary products like phones and social media, which is an issue because photos are heavily part of these products. In 1999, it launched Kodak Gallery, and by 2005, Gallery had over 30 million users. But this product never moved beyond photo sharing to the more complete product of social media. Without any new successful products, Kodak's revenue and profit deteriorated as we moved through the 2000s, and not even Drake in 2010 could make Kodak cool again. It declared bankruptcy in early 2012. However, bankruptcy in the United States typically leads to just a reorganization of a company rather than the company ceasing to exist. This is because with bankruptcy, the people who hold the bonds typically become the key stakeholder, and these bondholders often find more value reorganizing the company than selling off the assets. The bondholders have special abilities during bankruptcy that often wipe out or reduce the value of other stakeholders like employees and suppliers. In addition, shareholders are often wiped out. So the Kodak bondholders use this opportunity to slim down the company and exit businesses like digital cameras. So what has happened to Kodak since it emerged from bankruptcy? This was Jim Continenza and other Kodak employees ringing the New York Stock Exchange opening bell on January 8, 2014, symbolizing that Kodak was once again free from bankruptcy and it was a public company once again. However, in 2014, Continenza, the current CEO, had a more passive role, and he was just the chairman of the Kodak board. The chairman is still a powerful position, and his main power is that he can set meeting agendas and influence how the board votes. In February 2019, Continenza was named the CEO in an attempt to turn around the company. However, its sales decline actually increased to 6%, which was higher than the 4% in 2018, but he oddly said this following his first year.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for dialing in. Again, it was one of our best years in a long time.
Perhaps he was celebrating how Kodak raised $100 million in convertible bonds in May 2019, which gave the company more financial flexibility. Also, Kodak reduced its debt by paying down a $394 million bond during the year. But most of this debt reduction was made possible from the sale of a business in 2018 by Kodak's former CEO. Still, Continenza seems to be inferring that the excellent year must be based on his ability to reduce the company's debt.
Last year was the first year in many years we ended with the same amount of cash we started with, and I delevered the balance sheet 66% and 80% on net operations of debt. So we are in a very good debt position.
This celebration of improving the company's balance sheet by issuing convertible bonds will soon become important. Continenza's pay was also extremely high at $10 million, which can only be described as gratuitous given that his predecessor only made $2 million. Even worse, Kodak's market value was only $120 million at the start of 2019, and this type of pay package is only reserved for the largest CEOs. Continenza actually made more money than 19 of the largest CEOs in America. All of these details are very important to keep in mind as the coronavirus lockdowns began in March 2020.
To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Two very big words.
Many companies, including Kodak, saw this as an opportunity, but they also wanted to help the US government combat the coronavirus.
You know, when the pandemic started, Kodak wanted to see what we could do to participate. We were making hand sanitizers, face shields, PCB boards for ventilators.
While Kodak's internal reports show that they reached out to the US government, Continenza describes the events a little differently.
We realized we could do more. The government realized they could do more. They kind of reached out and
But either way, this led to Kodak being in contact with the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, or BARDA for short. And in early April, Kodak's plan was to help the government by producing pharmaceutical ingredients. However, as this pharmaceutical opportunity was unfolding, a parallel incident was also occurring. The company's board was supposedly concerned that Continenza was not being paid enough. They worried that even though he got over $2 million in stock options in 2019, that if the convertible bonds that Continenza issued were converted, then he would own less of the company. So the board is walking a very fine line in their argument because they say the transaction was greatly beneficial to Kodak because it allowed the company to pay down near-term debt. At the same time, they are seemingly arguing that these convertible bonds weren't a good thing because they say Continenza would have less of a share of the company once these are issued. This is a nonsensical argument by the board because if the convertible bonds were good for the company, the overall value of Continenza's options would increase despite owning less of the company because the company would be so much more valuable. In addition, Continenza was responsible for issuing these bonds. He said once again,
last year was the first year in many years we ended with the same amount of cash we started with, and I delevered the balance sheet.
So does he get to dilute everyone else but himself? The next argument by the board for why Continenza deserves a pay increase is that he had exemplary performance. But 2019 was not an excellent year, it was worse than 2018, and 2020 has been brutal. Sales declined 8% in the first quarter and 31% in the second, and sales are down almost 20% through 3 quarters of 2020. Also, many CEOs have greatly reduced their pay given the effects of the coronavirus, so the fact that the board was concerned about Continenza's pay during this time is very odd. Perhaps the exemplary performance was based on Kodak's progression in its loan application with the Development Finance Corporation, or DFC for short. The DFC is a new governmental agency created by the Trump administration. The DFC was further bolstered when Trump signed an executive order on May 14th, allowing it to make strategic loans. On May 22nd, Kodak proposed a smallish $27 million loan from the government, but White House advisor Peter Navarro reportedly said, think bigger and longer term. This led to Kodak asking for a $765 million loan on its final loan application on June 26. The government reviewed the request with a site visit on July 22nd, where it approved this letter of interest for a loan soon to be made to Kodak. Despite Kodak and the DFC signing the deal on July 22nd, It remained private until July 28th, when there was an official announcement by the DFC. The stock rose substantially on this announcement, as Kodak and the DFC proudly announced their $765 million letter of intent for a loan, and Donald Trump even joined in the congratulations.
Company, you remember this company? It's called, from the good old camera age, the old days, to begin producing critical pharmaceutical ingredients. It's called Kodak.
Peter Navarro, the key advisor, said,
"The history books will be talking about what happened yesterday. It's the greatest second act in American industrial history. Kodak, an iconic firm, is going to become the king of pharmaceutical manufacturing here in America when it's finished."
Adding to the excitement, the Wall Street Journal ran an exclusive article saying that this new business could add up to 30 to 40% to Kodak's revenue, implying $300 to $400 million of extra revenue. However, right before this announcement, on July 27th, Continenza was granted 1.75 million extra stock options. The market didn't know this, so predictably, on July 28th, the stock rose substantially, seeing the announcement of the DFC deal. The media reported that Continenza's net worth was up $80 million.
Yeah, he's made about $80 million this week based on the stock options, which were basically worthless before this week.
But had they actually known about these new options, they would have known that his net worth was up $160 million based on the $40 price of Kodak. However, despite his and Kodak's triumph, he was oddly defensive in interviews. On July 29th, when asked about the company's stock price, he said,
Good morning, Stuart. I'm not going to speculate on the stock price. I don't do that.
He also pleaded the fifth on relatively simple questions for a CEO.
And what is 25% of that market worth? Can you give me a dollar number there?
I couldn't right now speculate that.
Given that Kodak had already told the Wall Street Journal that it could be 30 to 40% of revenue, or $300 to $400 million, this seems like a relatively easy and straightforward answer for a CEO who's undertaking a big business opportunity to know off the top of his head. Later that day, at 7:20 p.m. on July 29th, the stock options that were awarded on July 27th became public. However, it wasn't until July 31st when the New York Times noticed this windfall gain. Kodak's public relations person responded to the New York Times saying that this was only a paper gain. I guess her argument is that as long as Continenza is not yet swimming in the money, then these gains are not completely realized. This article was published on Friday, right before the weekend. On Monday, the scandal erupted and Kodak stock closed down over 30%. The next day, the SEC launched an investigation.
Executives who own stock options grants. Here's the interesting twist to that. Those grants were issued July 27th, the day before.
On August 7th, Kodak announced that they hired a law firm to conduct its own internal investigation. And on August 10th, the government announced that the deal was now on hold. The deal is all but dead, given Navarro's remarks on August 17th.
And, you know, I was a business professor for 25 years at the University of California, Irvine. And based on what I'm seeing, and let's get it investigated, based on what I'm seeing, what happened at Kodak was probably the dumbest decisions made by executives in corporate history.
As one investor pointed out, it's unlikely the government will change its mind, given the public admonishment of the company.
It's hard to see how they will then reverse themselves and say, we're going to hand $700 million to some people who are stupid.
On September 15th, to some fanfare, Kodak's internal report cleared itself of wrongdoing, but US government officials pointed out, let's be clear, this report does not represent the findings of any regulator. It is a report generated by a law firm hired by Kodak. This quote is mentioned inside one lawsuit, and more lawsuits have followed, and there may be many more. In terms of damages, it is unclear how much Kodak's legal liability would be, given that prior examples of lawsuits are actually somewhat small. Tyson Foods settled a lawsuit for $4.5 million in 2008 for a similar scandal of issuing options before positive news, but this scandal for Kodak is far greater given that the options then likely led to it losing a loan, and the value of Kodak fluctuated so wildly. So, what do you guys think? Is Kodak guilty? Let us know in the comments. In late 2020, Kodak is now a very small company. It has gone from over 140,000 employees to just under 5,000, with only about 2,000 located at its headquarters in Rochester, New York. Its sales have declined massively from a peak of $20 billion in 1991 to barely $1 billion in 2020. It also doesn't make consumer products anymore, despite what some may believe. Let's go through its key products. While the Kodak website may be confusing because it shows so many consumer products, these products are actually from Kodak licensing its brand name. So all these products are made by other companies and Kodak gets a royalty on these sales, but the brand name only made a measly $12 million given that its name is no longer that valuable. Its biggest revenue item is $733 million for printing plate machines. Essentially, these machines are like a stamp, but you print a complex design on a plate that can be then used to transfer an image to another surface. These machines are used to make marketing brochures, books, catalogs, direct mail, newspapers, and many other items. Kodak also has another similar business called digital printing. Digital is similar to printing plates, except there is no intermediary plate. The image goes straight from a computer to another surface. Though plates and digital printing are similar, they have different positives and negatives. Kodak still does make some film, which is used in some Hollywood movies. Kodak also makes materials, and this segment made $174 million or 14% of revenue. Finally, Kodak has two more small businesses. It made $23 million for services related to archive retrieval. It also made $10 million from renting out its mostly vacated, massive facility called Eastman Business Park. This adds up to $1.24 billion of revenue in 2019, but to note, in 2020, revenue is down close to 20%. So will this scandal be the last time we hear of Kodak? Or can Kodak rise again? It will certainly be a lot harder given this blown opportunity.
And there's not a damn thing you can do to stop it. You were a Kodak moment once, and by God, you'll be one again. Only this time, it's digital. Oh, yeah!